Annie Hall was supposed to be a very different kind of picture. The period films were among my favorites, but I thought I was funny in Broadway Danny Rose, and I thought I was funny in Manhattan Murder Mystery. In Annie Hall, you were getting the Diane Keaton that you used to get off stage. That's how she was. I offered to make a free picture for United Artists if they would not put it out. I do know the movie I would like to make, and that would be strictly a New York movie.
Woody, in the book, there's a line that I loved where you said that you talk about how you say people in the Renoir painting long to live in the Fragonard painting.
Yeah,
and this is a theme in Midnight in Paris.
Yes,
where
exactly.
Nobody was happy. I think that was the message of Midnight in Paris, that nobody's happy in the time period that they are, and they always wax nostalgic about another time period.
Yeah.
And you return to that theme in What's with Baum. If you could live in another time period, what time period would you want to live in?
I wouldn't, because of the same reason that I gave in Midnight in Paris. It's very tempting to want to live in the 20s or the 30s in New York. It was very glamorous, but you wouldn't have... you wouldn't have any of your medicines, or if you go back to the really, like the Belle Epoque in Paris, which was great, you couldn't get any Novocaine when you go to the dentist. You couldn't get any of that stuff. So you have to sacrifice all of that, that beauty and all that charm.
There was no air conditioning.
No air conditioning.
No dry cleaning.
That's right.
We look at these TV shows like The Gilded Age now, we think, how did they get these clothes cleaned? It doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, that's true.
But they spent a lot of time on that. They changed clothes during the day a few times, and bed linens a few times. It wasn't like today.
Right.
Today everything is, and I would miss that. I would miss that. But no, nobody's happy, and they impute that to all kinds of excuses, all kinds of scenarios. And one of the popular things that they come up with is the era they live in. But they would be, the people in the other eras were also unhappy.
That was what was brilliant. And I laughed when I read it in the book. I'm going, that's Midnight in Paris, because Owen Wilson was so happy to be back in that time period, and whoever he traveled back to I think it was Belle Epoque, it was like, what do you do? I hate my time period. Yeah. Nobody's satisfied. Nobody's satisfied in the period that they're in.
Because nobody's satisfied, period. If you stop anybody in the street and talk to them, they're unhappy for one reason or another. One guy will tell you it's the era he lives in, but they'll give you a million other reasons they're unhappy. But nobody walking around is really happy.
You did a montage, I think it was for when 9/11 happened. You did a little montage where you were stopping people on the street and asking them questions. Do you remember that?
I remember doing at that time, Harvey Weinstein was making a montage, not a montage, a show at Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And it was all about New York, and he asked me if I'd make a contribution, and so I made a little film, video film of people that you kept passing in the street, and you'd hear their one line from their cell phones.
Yes,
what they were saying,
and it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
I remember that. I think the only place that was ever seen, I think, was that one night in Madison Square Garden.
It's on YouTube now.
Oh, it's on YouTube. Everything.
Woody, everything is on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a channel.
This will be on YouTube, Woody.
There's
This podcast.
There's an account called Woody Allen Films where it just is a loop that keeps showing clips from all of your films. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You know, Woody, I once asked you, it was at the premiere of, the Beekman Theater is no longer there, but it was on a red carpet on the Beekman, and you said, you don't save anything. I said, this is people aren't really watching DVDs anymore, but I said, you never have DVD extras with bonus features, you know? You said, no, I throw everything away. I'm just curious. I know that like on Annie Hall, and I know, I think it was Ralph Rosenblum did the editing on it. It was like 4 hours and then you cut it different ways. Will that, and all the movies, I know you shoot extra stuff. Will any of that stuff, is it like that Magnificent Ambersons where that hour is missing forever, or will it ever surface one?
Forever.
What's that?
I think it's all missing forever.
It's like burned, it's gone, it's like...
Yeah, I think so.
There's no extras.
Yeah, I never wanted to include extras in my DVDs, and I don't save anything. I'm not sure. I don't think I have copies of most of my films myself. I mean,
really?
I think in this house, if you wanted to see a copy of, most of my films, I wouldn't be able to come up with them.
So when we're all when we're all dead and gone, years from now, it won't be like they've unearthed an hour of Annie Hall or an hour of Crimes and Misdemeanors or something that never made the final cut. Like that stuff
not that I'm aware of. Look, a picture like September.
Yes.
Yeah.
I shot the whole picture again with a different cast. So there was a completed picture.
Where is it?
Finished.
Do you know?
Yeah, where's the first
It doesn't
picture?
exist, because I don't save any of that
So
stuff.
you just basically
But it would
throw
have
it away?
been, if I was a certain kind of personality, it would have been good material to lecture at a film class. This was this, and then here it is, redone. The actors, the rewrite. But I wasn't thinking of that at the time. I was just thinking.
So there aren't going to be any lost Woody Allen films that are going to turn up years from now.
I don't think so. Nothing, no lost films, and I don't think any lost clips either.
Are there any like I know when you make a movie, this was a really funny bit, but it didn't really work with the movie when you put it together. Are there any bits that like from movies where you go, gee, I really wish I could have incorporated that, but it just didn't work with the movie that come to mind or anything like that? Like,
well, a million. I've thrown out a million jokes, but I do have, I don't think I have, but it does exist. And maybe someone in my organization has a copy. The one thing I do remember, when I did Everything You Always Want to Know About Sex, I shot a sequence with Louise, my ex-wife, and we completed that sequence.
the spider sequence.
The Spidey sequence.
Yeah.
And I never put it in the movie, and I think it exists.
I would love,
But I don't know where or how or.
That's one of my favorite comedies of yours. I just recently watched it again. Do you have a favorite sequence, by the way, in that movie? Out of all if you remember the stories?
I don't remember them too well, but I do remember loving Gene Wilder.
Oh, that was great.
Because I'm such a big admirer of him.
Gene told me that you said when you did that sequence, and other actors have told me this as well, that when you shoot a movie, you go, if you want to change the dialogue, go. Gene said to me, he goes, go right ahead. If you want to change, what I wrote, if you want to change it, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, and other actors have told me the same thing. Have many actors done that? And if they've done that and you don't like what they've done, do you?
I tell them, but most of the time they do it fine. Well, the only phenomenon that occurs there is an actor will thank me profusely for 10 minutes for giving him the freedom and, this and this. Then when we shoot, it lapses right into the
they go back to the script
that's written.
Right.
And I said, what happened to all the freedom and everything? And then they back off. But a number of them will not back off. And usually what they do is better. It comes out better than what I wrote because it's organic for them. That's the way they speak. That's their rhythm, their halting rhythms, their stumbling. It sounds real. And rather than reading lines I gave them, which sometimes they can make sound real and sometimes they can't. Sometimes it sounds like...
Is there anyone who was a really great ad-libber? Anybody that you really thought, oh, they did a great job with this, but I didn't actually write it?
Well, Tony Roberts was great at that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was wonderful at, and he had the confidence, and he was a wonderful ad-libber.
And you had a great friendship, so you had an easy rapport with him.
Yeah, it was easy. It was an easy.
Do you remember any lines that Tony Roberts improvised in either?
I don't, but I remember him improvising all the time. I mean, he would improvise in the scenes, and Keaton. On the other hand, never liked to improvise. She always, she was a first-rate actress. She could make anything sound funny or good, but she didn't like to improvise. She liked to learn. She'd be the one on the set that would learn everybody's lines the first day, come in knowing everything. And she would do the lines, but they always sounded filtered through her inimitable personality.
So you wrote la-di-da, like an Annie Hall, la-di-da, la-di-da?
No, I didn't write that. That was the sum total of, in our 8 pictures, of her ad-lib.
Uh-huh.
La-di-da, la-di-da.
She just, but she was not comfortable either doing jokes or ad-libbing. In our script, I used to, I felt very comfortable doing jokes. I'd give myself all the jokes.
Right.
And she didn't have any jokes. By the end of the movie, she got all the laughs because she was intrinsically funny. It would be as if I did a two-hander, say, with W.C. Fields.
Mm-hmm.
And he would get all the laughs because he's just funnier than me. He's a funny human being.
Did you cut the spider sketch, or did the studio?
No, I cut it.
What? It didn't work?
I didn't think it worked. I didn't think it was good enough. No, the studio never did anything for a frame of any movie I've ever had. I had total artistic control of every movie I've done, including the very first one when I've never
take the money.
Take the money. Yeah. I didn't have it in the contract then. Subsequently, I got it in the contract, but at that, but it was Palomar Pictures. And they were, a new company, and they figured, well, he knows what's funny, leave him alone.
I got to ask you, if I may, I got to ask you, you've gone on record saying the first movie, which I love, Take the Money and Run. I could watch that over and over again. The laughs you said that you didn't know what you were doing. It was the first time you were directing. There's a scene in there for somebody that first time movie, you don't know what you're doing, is directing when you're playing cello in the high school marching band, and you're picking up the chair and you play. Right. For somebody who never directed, that's a very complicated thing to shoot. I mean, how do you even figure out how to do something?
It was common sense. Someone asked me when I made that picture from Palomar, they drifted around the set and said, "You've got $1 million to make this movie. How do you feel with so much responsibility?" And I'm thinking to myself, it's common sense. You know what you want to see. I wrote the joke. I know what I want to see.
So you knew where to put the camera in?
Yeah, I put the camera where you can see it. And I look if I couldn't see it, I would then say we have to move back a little or a little to the right. But it was just common sense.
You have such a comedic sense. There's a scene in that movie where, I'm paraphrasing, Virgil took the experimental vaccination. There were no after effects, but for 2 hours afterwards, he was turned into a rabbi. Mm-hmm. And you slowed your voice down for comedic effect. And I'm like, how did you know that? You go like, instead of just talking the way you usually talk, we eat matzo. It was slower, and the slowness made it funnier.
Well, that's how all the rabbis spoke. I mean, that was they spoke with rabbinical intonation.
Yes.
And they would speak that way. And I always thought it was hilarious.
It's hilarious.
But the rabbis I always found funny because when I grew up, you didn't have all these kind of nice-looking Reform rabbis,
Right.
that drive Ferraris.
Yeah.
We had, there were older men with beards, and they spoke, intoning the words all the time. And
Yeah.
that's
But it's funnier. It was just so much. If you would just deliver it the way you said it, it just.
Well, yes.
They were more authoritarian figures, those rabbis. They were very scary. A rabbi even that I had when I was a kid was an old-fashioned rabbi like that.
Uh-huh.
Now you have women rabbis, and everyone's dressed in Armani, and
yeah. But then it was. Then it was exactly as you described. They were old-fashioned rabbis. They were ominous and dark.
You were scared of them.
And very serious.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't joke with them. They were, there was a solemnity about their presence.
Speaking of rabbis, in What's with Baum, in italics, there's a lot of Yiddish words that you put into the book from time to time. And did you just pick up Yiddish growing up in Brooklyn in the house?
Yeah, I picked up in my family. All my aunts and uncles, my mother, my father, they all spoke a certain amount of Yiddish. But there's certain words that have transitioned into everybody's vocabulary. So
Everyone knows Mishigas now. Everyone knows chutzpah.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're saying. Everyone says shtick. Sometimes they say stick. I have to say, no, it's shtick.
Yes, they know those words because they're common. They're and they're very specifically descriptive, unmatched by words in the English language.
It's true. It's true.
So you can use them with impunity.
Roger and I were talking about this on the phone last night. The last movie where the title sequence before the movie started, instead of the black background with the Windsor font, the last movie we did a title sequence, and it was a very funny title sequence. Speaking about everything you always wanted to know about sex, you had the rabbits, which are identified with, mating, and you played Cole Porter's "Let's Misbehave," which was very funny.
Well,
and after that movie, well, I'm sorry,
I was going to say. At that period in movie making, titles were a big thing, and I couldn't really afford titles. So I went to the black and white titles and used them forever. I never spent any money on titles again. But people were getting these Saul Bass titles spending a fortune on titles. They were very imaginative.
Everything I was to know about sex was very funny. I mean, that opening sequences, you were looking at the rabbits and their noses are moving, and Cole Porter's like, "Let's misbehave." It's like, it was the perfect intro to that movie,
There was a man who worked up, I think, at Time magazine named Norman Gorbati, who had that idea and said to us, do a background of, 1,000 rabbits and we film the background. And so we went out and got the rabbits, and we got hundreds of rabbits. We had every rabbit in the tri-state area, really. And then when we put them in this white room, they all came to one side in the corner, and we needed 5,000 rabbits to cover.
They huddled together.
But you had to have picked the song.
They huddled all together, yeah.
You had to have picked the song because that's your period of music.
Yes, I picked all the songs in all my movies, every song, all the time.
But now this credit sequence with the black background and that same font, that's become like a trademark. It's like a Woody Allen. It's like, oh, there it is. Like Annie Hall, Love and Death, Crimes.
Yeah, I felt the important thing is the movie, and I was not going to spend that kind of money. But when I first started, it cost a fortune to make those elaborate. Dick Williams did them, and they were fabulous when you saw them in other movies. But we couldn't afford, whatever, $350,000 or $500,000 for titles.
And you got that idea of stacking the names, just stacking them. People don't get separate cards. They're just in there alphabetically.
Alphabetically, yeah. We said to everybody, you have to work for the minimum. We have to work titles in you're billing in alphabetical order. We made it as simple as possible.
I have to tell you, I saw a film at the New York Film Festival last week. It's called After the Hunt. It's a Julia Roberts movie by Luca Guadagnino. Do you know who he is?
I know he's a director by name,
Right.
but I don't know.
The movie starts exactly like a Woody Allen movie. It's the black and white. It's your typeface. It's exactly the Windsor typeface. And when the film opens onto the first scene, the characters are sitting around a room like this, and it looks like you expect Woody Allen dialogue. It's very It's very weird why he's done that, because I think people will sit there and think this is going to be a Woody Allen movie now. It's so trademarked to you.
But that movie will make money.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I read this book over the summer. It was an 800-page book. It was called Woody Allen, A Travesty of a Mockery of a Sham, which is a line of yours from Bananas. Mm-hmm. And in the book, the guy says that you went to Rollins and Jaffe when you were writing for all those television shows, and you wanted them to represent you. Mm-hmm. And I want to know if this is true or not. And they said, we don't represent writers. You got to be a performer writer. And that they pushed you, according to the book, they said that they pushed you into doing stand-up, which is something you weren't interested in. I watched the Barry Weiss interview that you did recently, and you said that you saw the comedy was going in a different direction. You saw Mort Saul and Jonathan Winters and all these different kind of comedians, and you said, this is for me. So I'm wondering, did you want to do stand-up, or was Rollins and Jaffe saying, get on stage and,
the guy is not accurate. I went to Jack Rollins, who was deservedly the definitive manager, and I asked him to handle me as a writer. And he said, well, we've never handled a writer before. And he said, but let's try. And he handled me for, I would say 6 months or a year as a writer. And I wrote television shows and gave him commission. And once at his house for dinner, I mentioned that I was thinking of maybe trying stand-up comedy, to do it myself. Well, he never let me off the hook. When I said that, he just would not let it go. He wanted me to, he thought it was a great idea that I should put an act together. And I would say to him, what do I have that is different, or that anybody, is nothing special? Why should I do this? And he said to me, let me make the decisions. Give me just, a year or two, and then we'll have this discussion again. Just listen to what I say and do what I tell you. And so I did, and he sent me down to the Village to do this, and then he sent me to the Blue Angel when they had the night that you audition for jobs there, and I listened to him, and I would say to him, I'm not enjoying this. I don't like the idea.
You weren't enjoying it at all?
I wasn't enjoying it.
Were you getting laughs?
I was killing him. But from the first night.
Really?
When I went on stage at the Blue Angel, Shelley Berman gave me a nice introduction on a Sunday night when they put on their, the people that are auditioning to get to the Blue Angel. And I was terrified and frozen. But the next day, 1 million offers came in.
Wow! From the first time up.
Yeah, in spite of myself, I was petrified. I didn't like it. I used to say to Jack Rollins, I'm not enjoying this. This is no fun. I get nervous, and I don't want to go down to a club every single night and come home at midnight or later. And he said, just do it and let's see what happens.
And did the persona, the Woody Allen persona that you do in the movies, did that come out of the act? Did you develop that?
No, I just spoke, and I didn't give it any thought. I just came out and told the jokes, and I thought that I used to say to Jack, why can't I just come out and read the jokes? The jokes, they're good jokes.
On a piece of paper.
And let me read them, And he was explaining to me that what I was so crazy about with someone like Mort Saul, he said, yes, the jokes are very good, but you're responding to the human being. It's like Mort's personality, there's something about him. That's what you have to do. It's not the jokes for anybody.
It's the delivery.
It's the person, the human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, of course, had all the answers and argued with them.
Did you loosen up eventually? Did you feel like you got into a rhythm of it?
I never
You never got comfortable?
loosened up, and I never had trouble with it. I mean, I never died. I was never heckled.
Mm-hmm.
And I played all these nightclubs in Washington, D.C., and St. Louis, and Boston, and New Jersey, and San Francisco. I played all of the clubs.
Right.
And I never, ever was heckled. And I never had a bad night. I never had one of those nights where,
you said you never enjoyed the stand-up. Did you ever enjoy like doing, you hosted the Tonight Show and you were on periodically on New Year's Eve. I would see you with Johnny. You would do the New Year's Eve. Were you comfortable doing What's My Line and doing the Tonight?
I was always nervous before I went out. And then when I was out there, it would be less nerve-wracking. The anticipation was more unpleasant because once you're out there and no amount of logic works. You think to yourself, there's 500 people out there in this audience. They have paid to see you.
Mm-hmm.
You worked the same show the night before and you got huge laughs. What are you afraid of? I mean, you're going to go out there. They've all paid to see you. They want to see you. Your press has been great. They laugh every night you've been on. Why are you frightened? But something in the hardwired in the body.
When you recorded the albums, how was that?
I recorded. We had the guy come in Chicago and I think maybe San Francisco. I can't remember where, but Chicago, I remember, Mr. Kelly's. And he recorded it.
One of the great stories on those albums is the one you tell about rounding the bases when you're trying to move in on this girl. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's sometimes I hear it on Sirius. They clip it out and they play it. It's still
on Sirius XM radio.
Yeah, it's a great stand-up bit. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did very well. I mean, I had no reason to be frightened. I was able to do it. People liked me. I didn't get into any conflicts with anyone.
No one heckled you.
No one heckled me ever. Or the bosses of the clubs. The only thing I remember on the negative side, I was. They booked me into Las Vegas, and they thought that they would sell out Caesar's Palace, but they didn't. We had about 2/3 of a house, so they would move the potted plants in for the next show to make the room smaller. And then they'd have to move more of them. And by the second week, it's like I'm playing to all potted plants. There's no people out there practically.
That's hilarious.
It's all plants. And in Vegas, and this story was verified in somebody's autobiography. I offered to give the money back in Las Vegas.
Really?
Because I felt they were giving me a lot of money, and I wasn't. And they couldn't believe, they wouldn't take the money back. They couldn't believe that anyone had ever offered to give them money. But I felt guilty.
Did you give it back?
They wouldn't take it. I was ready to give it back. Then I offered it to them, but they wouldn't take it. And they were as nice
That's
as
hysterical.
could be. And they booked me into Las Vegas several times, even and I did well with the plants. I was killing them.
Yeah.
The plants enjoyed the act.
The plants loved it. I did well with what audiences came in.
But you didn't enjoy going like not only on stage, that whole period in the early 60s, being in Vegas and being in these clubs, not when you were on stage, but that whole lifestyle of.
Well, one thing I want to ask Woody to tell you is a story he told me for a piece we did a couple of years ago. How you took how in every city you bought a turntable.
Yes, I had to travel. I'd go on the road. So I do St. Louis and Boston and San Francisco, Chicago. and I have to practice the clarinet, but I play in with records when I practice. And so I'd go to San Francisco, and I wouldn't lug a record player with me. They didn't have little things. They had record,
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah, there were
and
suitcases.
KLMs and things. And so I'd buy one when I hit town, and then I would leave town 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. The job was over. I'd leave the record player.
In the hotel room?
In the hotel room.
You just left it behind?
And I'd go to, because it was just cumbersome.
Right.
And I'd go to St. Louis and buy a record player.
You kept buying different record
Yes.
I
players?
bought a record player every
Unbelievable.
town I was in. When I was in St. Louis, part of the deal was they gave me a salary and they put me up in a room, not just a room, it was 2.5 rooms. And it was, they didn't have a good bathroom. I mean, it was a bathroom, a private bathroom, but it was icky for me. So I used to spend a big part of my salary going to like a Holiday Inn. And I would go into the Holiday Inn, go and take a shower.
You weren't registered there.
I was.
How did you get
No,
into
you
the
got
Holiday?
a room.
You got a room at the Holiday Inn.
I'd have to rent a room.
Oh, okay. You didn't just sneak in.
No, I didn't sneak
Okay.
in. I'd rent a room
Right.
and go in and take a shower and then go back to my job. And it was costing me a fortune to spend on renting a room. even
So
though
between
they were-
renting the room and buying record players, did
Yes.
you make any money from
I
traveling?
was not making a lot, but
Record
showbiz-
players were expensive back then. It
It wasn't that expensive.
Oh.
I mean, it wasn't that, maybe, I don't know, what, $175.
So in hotels all over in that era, there's left behind record players.
Yes,
And
there
many-
were left behind record players.
Someone's got a record player thinking, how did we get this?
Yeah, they found that the chambermaid probably that got the
And
record
did people,
player.
when you were playing the clarinet in your room, did anyone come and bang on the door and say, you've got to stop
It
that?
only happened once in my life, and it was much later. That was when I was with Sunyi,
Oh,
somewhere in England or in Europe.
you're
somewhere.
kidding.
And someone said, could you stop playing? We just had a baby, and we put the baby to sleep. And
Did they know who you were?
Yeah, and I met them in the lobby later, and I said, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, and they were very nice. But no, I didn't have that problem. I played, I'm very dedicated, so I practiced the clarinet every day. When I was in San Francisco, I was occasionally playing with Turk Murphy's jazz band, sitting in. But I had to practice. But I was directing the picture. So I would direct the movie and then go see the dailies and have dinner. And I lived in Tiburon. By the time I got home, it was late back to the hotel there. And I would get into bed. It was late. And I'd pull all the covers over my head, quilts and everything. And I would practice
Oh my God.
11 o'clock at night, very quietly in my bed with the quilts and everything over me. And I was very devoted. After a while, I started, not there, but years later, I started practicing on the job. So I practiced in the trailer, and I've practiced every place, on beaches, in churches, wherever I could get
Amazing.
a place to practice. At lunch or something.
You still play now?
Yeah. I'll play not right after you've gone, but a few hours later.
And you just in the last 6 months, you played at some charity event.
I went to that
with
event.
the band. Did you go to the event?
Yeah, it was Cafe Bouland. I saw Woody at Cafe Bouland over around 64th Street. You played with the band over there. I was there.
I don't remember this job. Cafe
Boulou?
Cafe Boulou.
Cafe.
64th Street. And
Oh, yes, Cafe Blue.
I was there.
That was recent.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. They were trying to get us there on a regular basis, but they ran into trouble because they need then to get a cabaret license and a whole big deal.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just have us come in and play. But that was the idea of that I would be playing.
Would
there.
you go back to Cafe Carlisle?
The Cafe Carlisle stopped the Monday night job, having show business there
Mhm.
because they were running into union problems. They would have to pay, I don't know what the exact mechanics were, but they'd have to pay like a whole week
Uh-huh.
just if we played. Or
Just for
something.
Monday night.
So it got very, you know.
When you were writing, there's a misnomer. People assume that you worked on your show with shows, and I know that's not
Right,
true.
I was too young.
I know that you worked on the Sid Caesar show.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were working in a writer's room. Who did you write with? Was Mel Brooks in that
Yeah,
room?
sure, I wrote with Mel.
Was Neil Simon in that room, or was he gone already?
He was gone, but I wrote with him anyhow. But he was gone. I wrote with Danny and Doc. And
Was Larry
Simon.
Gelbart in there?
Gelbart I wrote with many times on shows, not just for Sid Caesar. We wrote Art Carney special. We wrote a
When you started writing movies, like your first couple of movies you wrote with Mickey Rose.
Right.
And Doug McGrath, I got to know. I used to teach a course at the New School. I showed Bullets Over Broadway, and he came and talked about that. You wrote that with him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like writing with other people?
Every
how does
now
that
and
work?
then, I write by myself most of the time, but then after 10, 12 years of it, you get lonely. You figure, well, I wouldn't write with anyone. I mean, Ricky Rose I grew up with. So it was fun to be with him. He was a social friend, and Doug McGrath was a social friend of mine, and Marshall Brickman, was a good friend of mine. So it was fun just to be in the room with them instead of being in the room alone, and doing it all. But I most of the time I write by myself.
Like, for example, when you wrote "Take the Money and Run" with Mickey Rose, to reference point, two great scenes. One where you were sentenced to spend 3 days in solitary with an insurance salesman, and another scene where you went for a job interview and you said, "I'm going to have to flip over all the cards and say that you didn't guess my occupation, but thank you for playing along." Yeah, did you conceive these, or did Mickey Rose conceive these, or was it a joint effort?
I mean, we both, that's how we do. We paced the room. And telling the story, and that's how you write. That's how I wrote. Whether in the Caesar show with the Mel Brooks and Mel Tolkien was in the room, and that's how I wrote with Larry Gilbert. You pace, and you sit down, you get up, you pace the room, and then
right.
Everybody's pitching jokes, and you
Who came up with Gub? Who came up with Gub instead of Gun?
We never say who came up with stuff. First of all, we never remember, but we never say the rule was always when people asked us those questions, and we did remember, it was always both of us.
Collaborative.
But I was watching that the other night, and the scene works because it's so serious. Because the bank manager says, "Well, I don't understand about the note.
Come over here.
Come over here. Look at this. It looks like a B, not an N."
They were amateurs.
Everyone is so serious about it.
They were amateur actors, local, not local people, show business people. They were.
How'd you find these people?
I went to San Francisco, and I met people that the casting person would bring in people, and I picked people who looked the part and who sounded good,
I got to ask you, out of all the movies that you've done, that you've been in, whether in some you didn't direct, some you were just in the movies. Out of all the movies you've done, do you have a favorite comedic performance of yours where you thought you were funniest? Like, do you have a favorite Woody Allen comedic performance in all of your movies? And do you have a favorite performance, period? It doesn't even have to be comedic, where you were in the movie.
If you ask me personal favorites, yes. I'm not saying the world would agree with this, but I thought I was funny in Broadway Danny Rose, and I thought I was funny in Manhattan Murder Mystery. That's the most fun that I had because I could be openly comic.
Mm-hmm.
I could.
Broadway Danny Rose,
not Sleeper. You were
it wasn't. It doesn't come to my mind. That was. It doesn't. I mean, I'm sure I haven't seen it in 50 years, but I'm sure that I was doing doing the jokes.
As far as a serious performance, although it was comedic to an extent, I think your work in the front was tremendous.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah,
I love your work in that. I mean, there was some serious parts when Zero Mostel's character, Hecky Brown, comes to see you before he commits suicide, and you're like, I mean, you're giving a serious performance. I think it's a great performance.
Comics could always do dramatic stuff, whether it was Ed Wynn or Red Buttons or, Buddy Hackett on Broadway did one play nominated for a Tony. Comics could do that. It's much easier for comics to do that than the other way around. Someone that's a dramatic actor being funny.
Did you doctor the script a little? Even though you're not credited as writing the front, there's lines in there like with Andrea Marcovici where she goes, you're out to dinner. The biggest sin in my family was talking out of turn at dinner. And you go, the biggest sin in my family was buying retail.
No, that's in the script.
Really? That's such a Woody Allen line.
That's Walter Bernstein.
Or the line where you go, so you wanted to date her, and you go, she goes, well, I'm seeing somebody, and you go, so are you telling me you're a one woman, one guy kind of girl? She goes, yeah, okay, so let's go out and don't bring him along. I mean, that's like a Woody Allen line.
Well, Walter was writing for me in the script. He knew I was going to play that part. And he was, he was including jokes. In
you didn't write Woody Allen lines in there? Predominantly, that was
no. But every once in a while, there'd be a moment when I would be ad-libbing in there, but nothing. I mean, I haven't seen it since I made it.
There's a line when you tell her that I'm practically illiterate, and she goes, "You're illiterate." He goes, "What are you? Catch you in bed with a cat." Catch you in bed with a cashier. That's maybe it's just the way you delivered it, but I'm going.
It may have been my delivery because these are lines that were in Walter's script, and it was such a pleasure. At the end of the day, I could go home and not think about the movie.
Do you like that movie? I love that movie.
The burden was on Walter Bernstein and Marty Ritt.
Do you like the movie?
Did I like the movie? You're asking the wrong person.
Why?
Because I never liked anything that I did. I always had, when I was finished putting a movie together, I always felt disappointed. I never really, until, I had one or two, like Match Point or something, where I felt, oh, this came out pretty close to what I had written. This is what I want. Usually I don't.
Barry Weiss, in that interview that you just did with Barry Weiss, and I'm hanging on every word, and you said out of the 50 movies I did, you told Barry Weiss, I liked 4 movies. And the movies you mentioned were Match Point, Husbands and Wives, Midnight in Paris, and Purple Rose of Cairo. And I'm going, where are the other 11 movies? So I was wondering if you could remember any of the other 15 that you liked those particular movies.
I liked Zelig.
Oh, yeah.
I did like Zelig, and I liked I liked Match Point. Did you say that?
Yeah. I'm going to name a few movies that I love.
Misdemeanors?
Zelig is a hard film to see. For some reason, they don't show it on television.
I have it on
brilliant.
DVD. Let me.
It's such a brilliant film, though.
It's one of my favorites.
And if you look at it now, it's sort of even more brilliant than it used to be, because you see in social media all these people turning up who are sort of nobodies, and they become celebrities overnight. And now anybody who looks at these things on TikTok or YouTube, and you go, these people are Zeligs. But it's become a word.
It was so much harder to do it technically then than now with the special effects and AI. Back then, it was so tough to insert yourself into those scenes. This way, with computers, it could be done so.
Yeah, now you could do it. When I made my first film, Take the Money and Run, I wanted to make a documentary film, and Take the Money and Run was documentary. The interviews with the people, people talking to the camera, as in a documentary, with a narrator. Jackson Beck narrated it like he'd narrate.
Yeah, he had a newsman. He had such a newsman voice. Virgil was sentenced. It was like,
Jackson Beck was
great.
He was the old Superman on radio.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Really?
When he did many radio parts, but Superman was one of them.
Give me a yes or no if you like any. These are some of my favorites. You don't have to like, but I know you only like 15 movies. Do you like any of the following films that you've done? Blue Jasmine. Did you like Blue Jasmine?
I liked the girl. I liked what's her name?
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett.
But you didn't love the movie.
Oh well, I don't love any of them. I would give you a no on all of them.
Deconstructing Harry.
Yes, none of them lived up to what I thought I had when I finished the script, and I was planning it. I figured, this is great. I got this actor. I'll do this, and I'm going to shoot this, and this is, and then I cut it together, and I'm always disappointed.
Were you disappointed with Mighty Aphrodite?
Very.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny.
I was very disappointed.
Why?
Because it just, first of all...
What did you imagine that it would be?
Yeah, really.
I thought it would be better. It depends on your personality. Mine's very negative in that sense. I remember going to a screening of a Sidney Lumet movie, and I loved him as a director.
Uh-huh.
And there was a screening, maybe 60, 70 people there. And at the end of the movie, he was standing by the doorway, and people were saying, "Oh, I loved your movie," and he was saying, "Oh yeah, wasn't that scene great? Wasn't that scene? Isn't she lovely? Wasn't that beautiful?" And I'm thinking to myself, I can't imagine myself in this lifetime doing that. First of all, I would never be around at the end of the movie.
When I interviewed you on the red carpet for one of your movies, you did the red carpet. You walked in the movie, and then the crew was unpacking, and 2 minutes later, you walked right out. You didn't stay for the movie.
I know I wouldn't stay for the movie.
I know you don't stay for the movie.
No, I've seen the movie enough in editing, and
I get that.
But what about Hannah and her sisters? That's a complete.
Were you
It's almost like a
disappointed?
novel.
Were you
It's in
disappointed
3
with that?
acts. It's very well shaped. It's really kind of a masterpiece.
I had a much harsher ending on it, and because I failed during the making of the film to justify that ending. So when I had the original ending in the pictures went along, and when it came to the ending, it's like it fell off the table. I couldn't have that ending. It didn't. So I had to shoot an ending where it ended, and you didn't feel, oh, what a disappointment.
Right.
Were you disappointed with Bullets Over Broadway?
No.
I love that movie.
The period films were among my favorites. Bullets Over Broadway and
Radio Days,
Purple Rose and Radio Days and Midnight in Paris. Anything period.
There's a shot in Bullets Over Broadway. It's driven me nuts for years. It's gorgeous. It's Diane Wiest and John Cusack, and they're sitting behind these pink flowers, and
it's in Central Park.
Oh, that's Central. I'm going, where is this? Is the most? I want to take my wife to this place.
It's at the Mount Sinai Hospital, but right off Fifth Avenue.
Uh-huh.
Question answer. 10 years I've been dying to know where that shot was.
If you walk up at the right season, if you walk up to Mount Sinai Hospital and go into the park up there, there's a park. There's a very fancy little tiny park.
Uh-huh.
And it's there.
On the west side or on the east side?
On the east side, right off Fifth Avenue.
Really? I thought it was in Brooklyn somewhere.
No.
Wow.
So we did shoot a certain amount of that picture in Prospect Park.
Chaz told me that he improvised at the end when John, and I don't know if this is true, you can verify it, at the end when he's dying and he tells John Cusack, in the last act, blah, 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 I want you to change this. And John Cusack goes, oh, right. What I goes, don't speak, which was Diane. He said, Chaz said, I came up with that. And Woody goes, I love it.
Yes, I loved it, but I don't think it's in the. I think he told me that after the picture. I may be misremembering. I don't think you'll find that in the picture. I think.
No, he says, don't speak to John Cusack in the picture. Right before he dies, John Cusack says something and he goes, "Don't speak."
Does he do that?
Yeah, which Diane Weiss says throughout the whole thing. Don't speak. Don't speak.
I get the joke, but for some reason I had the feeling he told me that, and I said to him, why didn't you tell me this earlier?
Oh, okay.
But maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember the pictures.
Were you disappointed with Annie Hall?
Listen, Annie Hall was, first of all, Annie Hall was supposed to be a very different kind of picture.
It was anhedonia, right?
It was supposed to be a stream of consciousness picture. And I cut it all together, and I looked at it, and I had Marshall Brickman come in and look at it. Marshall co-wrote it with me, and he couldn't make heads or tails out of it. It was incoherent, because stream of consciousness is hard to make work. So then I had to start from scratch and re-edit the whole picture. Then I came to the end of the picture, and I couldn't get a good ending, and I shot the ending 5 times with this actor, with Sigourney Weaver, with this actress, with this. I mean, I can't tell you what a nightmare it was. Doing it,
watching it again because of Diane last week, and I think I wanted to ask you about this as far as Diane goes. The reason everyone's very upset about Diane, and she's obviously lodged in people's consciousness, in their movie memory. She has a very strong persona. And even though she was in lots of good movies, Reds was good, and, Baby Boom and all that, Annie Hall is what they remember. It's such a strong image.
Because we were exploiting her natural persona in that movie. I mean, she could act in those other movies, and she was a wonderful actress. But in Annie Hall, you were getting the Diane Keaton that you used to get off stage. That's how she was. And to meet her was to fall in love with her. Everybody that met her fell in love with her. She was just so charming and so eccentric and so funny. And, I never heard a bad word about her in any way.
In a way, as the movie builds, when you finally get to the montage where Alvy is remembering all those great things, that montage is what brings it all together. Do you remember making that with Ralph? Or
no? I had written a murder mystery, which later turned out to be Manhattan Murder Mystery.
Oh.
I had written a murder mystery, and at the end of the murder mystery, I had included a montage like that, a nostalgic montage. And we didn't have that ending in Annie Hall. And we were groping, and days went by in the cutting room. We tried this, we tried that. Then I suggested this kind of montage, and Ralph said, yes, we could always do he had a name for it, not a nostalgia montage, but some kind of thing. And I said, we could try that. Once we tried that, it was clear.
Did you ever, in your wildest dreams when you were making that movie, realize that it would be I've seen all your movies, and I love so many of your movies, but that movie just connects with so many people. Did you ever think, it won the Best Picture. Did you ever think that?
We never had any idea. We Marshall and I finished it. We brought it to UA, and we wanted to name it Anhedonia, which is a psychological malfunction where you can't get pleasure out of anything, but it's a serious affliction. And the people in US said, we can't call it Anhedonia. It's a very nice picture. Then we wanted to call it Sweethearts, but Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy had made a picture called Sweethearts, so we couldn't do that. And we didn't know what to call it. We didn't think we had anything special, but everybody fell in love with that picture.
Did you ever think of calling it like Alvy instead of Annie Hall, like Alvy and Annie or something?
Yes, and we thought of calling it Alvy and Annie and Alvy, and we thought of calling it Small Portions, because at the beginning his life was so terrible, but the food up here is awful.
Right, the opening of the movie.
Yeah,
Right.
and we thought of, Marshall Brickman wanted to call it, suggested to them, Dr. Shenanigans. I mean, we and then finally, I knew Keaton's real name was Hall,
Mhm.
so I called it Annie Hall.
But you had I interrupted you. You were saying everybody fell in love with that picture. It's true. Everybody did fall in love with that movie.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't envision that. We hoped for the best when we put it out, but people loved it. They just, and all over the country, they just.
Well, I remember what it was like when Manhattan came out, because you knew it wasn't the sequel to Annie Hall, but it was the reunion of Annie Hall. And Manhattan is the most romantic picture ever.
Manhattan was also one of those pictures where I couldn't figure out, when the picture was over, and I've said this before, I offered to make a free picture for United Artists if they would not put it out.
Yeah, I heard you didn't like Manhattan. You don't like Manhattan.
I didn't like it, and I thought
even that opening sequence with Gershwin.
Well, I like the opening sequence because it's George Gershwin's music.
Right.
And we were in the middle of shooting in Central Park one day, and someone said, "Hey, tonight there's going to be a fireworks show in New York, and it's going to be great, I hear." So at the end of the day, we packed up and we went to an apartment. One of the guys on the crew had a friend who had an apartment on Central Park West with a good view.
Uh-huh.
So we went up there and shot all that stuff. And with the Gershwin music, I like that montage, but I had many reservations about the movie.
No, Woody, when you and Diane finally run into Wally Shawn, that's
hysterical.
I just saw Wally Shawn, by the way, last week. He sends his best to you. We talked about Rivkin a lot. And but when what's his name? Leonard? What's the boyfriend's? I can't remember the character's name.
What movie?
In Manhattan, where she's talking about her boyfriend who was such a sexual dynamo.
I don't know what his name was.
He's such a sexual dynamo, and you said he's a homunculus. I can still remember being in the Beekman Theater and falling into the aisle laughing.
The crew, when Wally came on the set, the crew was hysterical. But that was the triumph of Juliet Taylor's. I didn't know Wally from a hole in the wall, and I was trying to cast that part. And she introduced me to Wally Shawn. And, it's a no-brainer to stand the minute you
say to Diane, this is the guy? This is the
you that opening sequence in Manhattan, which you do like, where you always romanticize. I'm a native New Yorker, and I told you I live around the corner from you, and I've lived in New York all my life. You romanticize the city. The city has changed. I've seen, and so you've seen it changed dramatically over the decades. Are you still in love with New York the same way that you were, let's say, from decades ago? I've lived here, you've lived here. It has changed.
I love the city, and I wouldn't live anyplace else, but it definitely, to me, is not as, the whole world is not as good as it was some years ago. I think if we could go back, well, first of all, it was, before I was born, it was a knockout in the 20s. I mean, really fantastic.
But now you're doing Midnight in Paris. You're waxing nostalgic about an era that we can't live in anymore.
Yeah, that you can't live in. And the 30s were also great in New York, and the 40s were great in New York. And the 50s, it started in the mid-50s to ebb away a little, and it's never really been the same as that. It's when the theater was an 8:40 curtain, not an 8 o'clock curtain.
I remember that.
People could have dinner, go to the theater. Afterwards, you could go to a supper club. You could go to nightclubs in New York, and it was just a different.
Wasn't that part of? I always think that has a lot to do with TV coming in.
With what?
With TV, because when TV came in, theater started to change because people were getting the theater on TV.
TV was one of the things. Another one was many people moved to the suburbs as New York became less affordable, and they moved to the suburbs, and so they didn't want to leave the theater at 11 or quarter after 11 and go out to Long Island or to Connecticut. So they moved the curtain up, to an earlier curtain. And also the music changed. You didn't get, Lerner and Lowe and Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hart anymore. The music started to change to a kind of music that was not as appealing to me.
How sad is it? I'm living on the Upper East Side for over 40 years. And where I live now, if you go back 15 years ago, there were at least 14 movie theaters in a 7-block radius of my apartment. There was the Beekman, there was the Sutton, there was the 58th Street Playhouse, there was the Gotham, there was the... I could just rattle them all off.
Yeah,
There's one left. Cinema 123 on across the street from
the
Bloomingdale's.
Coronet and the Baronet.
Gone.
Where we used to line up at the Baronet for your movies around the block.
How sad are you? How sad are you that it was an event. You'd go to the people sometimes. It's like, what movie are we going to tonight? You know?
No, I miss that tremendously. When I started in the movie business, there were all those movie houses you're talking about, and there were those Upper West Side art houses.
The Regent, where you did it, right?
Well, the New Yorker.
At the New Yorker, you filmed that scene with Marshall McLuhan, and the
Yorker.
Regency and Athalia, and it's all gone.
Yeah, all that's gone. That whole thing is gone. And, but that's a different phenomenon. That's the movie business has changed, in my opinion, for the worse over the years. It's no fun to make a movie and have to beg the backers of the movie to have 1 week or 2 weeks in a movie theater, and then goes right to
Will we
television.
ever see? Do you think we'll ever see another Woody Allen movie?
I don't know. It depends. I have a lot of trouble getting backing in the United States.
I feel like I saw you and Sun-Yi with Ed Walson in a picture in the newspaper where you were maybe in Spain, and in the last year that you were looking at locations. Is that possible?
I could make a movie if I wanted to go to Spain, if I wanted to go to Argentina, if I wanted to go to Russia. All these places have offered to back a movie if I would make one there. But I don't feel so much like living 3 months.
Right. You did. Didn't you do Love It? Were you in Russia when you did Love and Death? Were you actually?
No. I was in Paris and I was in Budapest.
Oh, Budapest.
But when I was in Budapest, it was occupied by Russian troops. And we used hundreds of Russian troops on a movie. They had nothing to do. They were occupying Budapest, and there was no war in Budapest, no uprising. Right. So there were hundreds of Russian troops there. So
did they know who you were?
I don't think so. and they could march perfectly. We could get hundreds.
So how did you pick this location? If it was
it was financial. I had a certain amount of money to make that film. It was probably at most $2 million.
I know you don't like a lot of the movies, but do you ever look back fondly on the first 5 films, which were strictly comedies, like Sleeper, like Take the Money and Run, and Bananas? And I know you didn't direct Play It Again, Sam, and it was a play first, but these are funny movies. Do you ever look? Do you have any fondness for them at all? I can watch those. I have
fondness for when I think of the experience. I liked shooting Take the Money and Run, but the thrill for me was that I was going to start shooting first day in San Quentin. And I figured, oh, God, I'm going to get into this legendary prison. I'm going to see prisoners. I'm going to see cell blocks and, the kitchen, the laundry, the place. That's what interested me. I was, the jokes to me were easy. I do it and I knew what I wanted to see. So that was, but the thought of being in San Quentin was, and then we shot in San Bruno, another prison, and it was,
that was exciting.
It's funny when you look back at Sleeper, see how decades have passed. You actually had to spend a few minutes of the movie explaining to the audience what cloning was, because nobody knew what cloning was. Cloning is the process of where you, and now everybody knows what cloning is, but at the time you had to explain cloning.
You had to explain it, yeah.
How did you know what cloning was?
We knew what cloning was, and probably more people knew than I was comfortable. Probably more people knew, but we couldn't take a chance.
Were those sets tough? I mean, it's that whole futuristic thing in Sleeper with, you had all these guys in white makeup with the assembly line when they were cracking the people's heads off in Sleeper. I mean,
we found those places. We had a great art director, Dale Hennessy, and we found those places. We shot some of that picture in Colorado, and we found that house, for example, and it exists to this day in Colorado. We've because we didn't have the money to build elaborate sets or to build futuristic.
Well,
stuff.
the set and everything the Tony Randall, the last skit and everything, sketch and everything you sequence and everything you want to know about sex that takes place in the body. That was a pretty elaborate set,
but not elaborate financially. We found a house in California, a big mansion, and we were able to do like 5 locations in that house without moving.
Really?
And we just spruced up, this room and that room and that. And
I want to ask you about 2 more recent movies. I don't want this to be all the old movies. First of all, Timothée Chalamet, you haven't seen it yet. There's a movie he's coming out in called Marty Supreme. He's probably going to win the Oscar. That's how good it is. You really established him in A Rainy Day in New York.
Well, he was in that movie, and he was very good in it because he's a very good actor. And I haven't seen that movie yet, but it's a
very Damon Runyon-esque character. He's running his mouth all the time. He gets into a lot of trouble, and it's since Rainy Day in New York, it's probably the best thing that he's done.
Well, I'm sure he's a very good actor. I mean, all I did was cast him in a movie and tell him after I cast him he had to sing,
right?
But he rose to that occasion.
And you had Selena Gomez,
right,
who's become a big star because of the Only Murders in the Building. Have you ever seen Only Murders in the Building?
I've never seen that. No.
It's a takeoff on Manhattan Murder Mysteries.
Oh, is it? No, I didn't.
Oh, it's totally the movie version, the TV version of that movie, where they go around solving murders in their building every week, just the way you and Diane did.
Speaking of about
murders in the building.
In the building.
Speaking about your more recent films, you probably don't know this, but my favorite film of the year, I do a top 10 list of the year, last year, was Coup de Chance.
I'm glad.
Love that film.
I
love that film.
I enjoyed making that film because I got a chance to live in Paris for a few months, and it was fun to make it.
And I told you before we started rolling that, I don't know if you remembered, that my mother did intensive sessions with you. My mother was French, and she did intensive sessions of teaching you French. This was like 20 some odd years ago. And I'm wondering, when you made Coup de Chance, if you retained, I mean, it's a Woody Allen movie in French with English subtitles, if you retained any of the French language.
I did retain enough to get by, but in France, as in every place in Europe, everybody speaks English.
Right.
So, I almost never had to use the smattering of French that I know, because the cast spoke English and
you understand the scenes? I interviewed Lou Delange, and I said, did you improvise anything? And she goes, no, Woody's script, we just did it in French. And she's fabulous in that movie, by the way.
She's great. She was a wonderful actress and beautiful.
Beautiful.
I never heard of her. I went over there and they showed me some footage here of her. And I said, who is that girl? She's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And she was a wonderful actress. And
did you understand when they were shooting, like if you're looking at a scene and it's in English and you go, change there, and like, I don't know, did you understand?
You do understand. If you see a Kurosawa film, you know when someone's acting great, or someone is okay and they're fine, but my God, what a gripping performance. The language doesn't matter. And I knew what they were saying because I wrote it. They were saying what I wrote. So I knew what was going on.
But of course, of course, about that movie is the twist at the end.
Don't give it away.
I won't give it away, but it's you know, I can remember. I think you remember I saw it in your screening room, and all the people in the screening room gasped.
It's great.
It's one of the great turns in film.
Stroke of luck, which is it's translated. Yeah, the whole thing is a stroke. Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh,
you know,
I'm glad. I had a very good time making that. That was the last time I was in Paris. I wish I could make another. I'd be glad to make a movie in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, New York. I'd like to make one in New York, but I have real trouble getting backing here.
You know who wants to make a movie with you is Catherine Deneuve.
Catherine, yeah.
Do you know about that?
I never had anything for her. You know, when I heard about this, she was an older woman, and I didn't have a part, you know, for an older woman.
She still has it. I have to tell you, I've seen her in person, and she still has it.
Oh,
she's
sure
still Catherine Deneuve.
I'm sure she's, you know, sharp as could be.
Yeah.
But you can't cast her as a college student. Is the problem.
I know you have a million ideas. You've said you tell Barry White, I have a million ideas for movies. If you could, like just in a line, if somebody gave you financing and you said, make a movie, Woody, do you have, like, in one line, do you know the movie you'd want to make? Or would you not even want to share that information?
I wouldn't share it, but I do know the movie I would like to make. And, you know, that would be strictly a New York movie. And if someone gave me the money, I would make it. But the thought of going, yes, to Paris, that's fine.
That's much better.
You know, what?
He said, I wish I had the money to. I am so desperate for another Woody Allen. I wish I had I am not a rich man. I wish I had the money to give you to make another movie.
Could this be a movie? Could it be a movie?
Could what if? Yeah.
Yes, that could be a movie. Sure.
Would you think of making this?
That could be, but the only problem is I'm too old to play the lead, and I know exactly how it should be played.
Oh, but in the movie you want to make, if you were going to make one more, you would be in it.
No, I wouldn't be. No, I have an idea for a movie with me, but no, I wouldn't be in it. I have an idea for a good movie, but in New York, but it can't be done in Paris or London or places where I can actually get backing.
What are the odds on it actually happening? If you had to handicap it, 10% chance that we get to see another film, 50-50. If you had to
you never know, because I've had situations where someone will call me up from another city and say, I've always wanted to back one of your movies. Is it possible? And we say, yes, but you realize, you know, all you could do is put the money in a round paper bag. And, you know, you wouldn't have anything to say. I wouldn't tell you who's guarantee anything about it. You couldn't read it.
You can't come on the set.
And no, on the set I don't mind, because they drift around the background. They don't bother me, but I wouldn't let them read the script. And I wouldn't. Sometimes someone will say, yes, we'll back a movie, but you got to give us a list of 5 people, 10 people, whatever, that you'll use one of them,
right?
And one of them that you want to use, but so we know. But I can't do that because for a lot of reasons.
Talk about not reading the script. I saw a funny interview on your channel. Somebody had clipped this out of the interviews, where Tom Hiddleston from Midnight in Paris ran into Owen Wilson on the set, apparently in Paris, and Owen Wilson said to him, "Why are you dressed like that?" And he said, "It's a period movie." And Owen Wilson said to him, "No, it's not. I'm regular. I'm dressed." They had no idea from only reading their pages that they were in the same movie together.
That's so funny. I can't imagine.
And he said Owen Wilson got scared, and he said, "Well, maybe I'm not doing the right thing if this is a period movie."
I can't see how he could. Well, now when you say it, you know, it really starts off as a contemporary movie.
Right.
So
He said, "Here I am. I'm dressed properly,
yeah.
and you're, dressed as F. Scott Fitzgerald."
You're such a private person, and I know you value your privacy, and you don't like to go to award shows and all of this stuff. But what's incongruous to me is I know you used to go to Elaine's like for 10 years, like almost every night, which is the complete opposite of that.
No, Elaine's was great because nobody ever bothered you at Elaine's. So all show people or writers or, nobody ever asked for an autograph or spoke to you. It was great. And Elaine always protected you. I always sat at the same table. And it was great because it was so celebrity packed and literary figures and publishers, and you never had any problem. I was the least famous person at Elaine's. I mean,
well, you featured it in 2 movies, so particularly Manhattan.
Manhattan, yeah. Says Elaine on the outside.
It remade Elaine's as a famous place. People wanted to go there after that.
Well, no, but Elaine's was a very in place when I used it. But I had seen people there. You would see at one table would be the mayor, at another table would be I saw Simone de Beauvoir there at one table.
Really?
Yeah. It was amazing.
She used to say to me, Elaine, I'd be sitting with her and she'd see famous person would come in and she'd say, "Go over there and talk to them," because she knows a journalist. So she'd say, "Go over there and introduce yourself." And I'd say, "I'm too scared to do it." One night it was Phil Spector with 10 bodyguards, all wearing guns, that kind of thing. But I would go over and I'd say, "Elaine sent me over." And then they would say, "Sit down. You can talk to us."
Yeah, she took me by the hand and brought me to Simone de Beauvoir's table.
She did?
And then a subsequent interview with Simone de Beauvoir, she said, I met Woody Allen there, but I'm sure he didn't know who I was. Now, the truth of the matter is I'm probably one of the few people that had read her book The Second Sex.
There's so much philosophy in Love and Death. Did you know all of it in advance, or was it stuff you integrated as you were reading?
Oh, no, most of it I knew.
You knew it.
Most of it I know. Yeah, I'm a big philosophy fan. I mean, I like to read philosophy, and I enjoy it. It's pleasurable reading for me.
When they lapse into those conversations in Love and Death, it's absolutely stunning. It's so funny. First of all, it's hilarious that they're saying it, and then you have to really listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, I always made good philosophy jokes, particularly in my prose stuff, not in this book, but in the things I wrote for the New Yorker.
Right.
And I'd been asked to talk on philosophy shows that would have on a real philosopher, but I never wanted to do it. I always felt, I can be funny about it, but I can't really hold my own in terms of profundity or deepness or depth. But
I don't know about that. I think you could.
In What's with Baum, I spend a lot of time in the Hamptons, and you have this section. It's very, very funny where you're just cutting apart all these pretentious people.
Oh wait, I have it here.
In the Hamptons, and I was laughing out loud reading about it, and I don't know. Have you ever spent? I mean, I know you filmed the scene in Annie Hall out there, but you just nailed some of these idiots.
I haven't spent time out there, but I've filmed out there a number of times because it's pretty, out by the beach. I've filmed out there, and my wife likes to visit friends out there, so I go out there and I'll do like one night sleepover, but I don't like it. I'm sorry, but I don't like it. I don't like, I'm
but you knew the people. When you're talking What's with Baum.
The people are the same people that I see here. Marshall Brickman used to say the Hamptons was a million Central Park West. and
I love these things funny. Like Sidney Cantor, the CEO of a hedge fund, throws a Frisbee to the dog. Max Koch recommended to Edith Klein. She sued her plastic surgeon. These are all. Also, I didn't know what jar earrings were. I had to look them up. How did you know what they were?
I know because my wife knows, and I learned by osmosis. I never bought one, but I know.
That's good, Roger. That's the exact passage that I was.
The other ones I like are: a drunk gets guacamole on the Gilman's Rothko.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
these are things that you laugh out loud when you're reading the book.
Hopefully.
Do you enjoy?
First, you have to buy the book. That's the problem. That's the obstacle I can never get over.
Well, let's talk about the book for a minute.
Did you enjoy writing the book? Your process. You write a screenplay, and then you have to film it, and then you have to edit it and score it and pick the music. And this is just the writing part of it. Was it difficult? Did you enjoy it?
And if you write something and you don't like it, you just tear up the pages and throw them away. Whereas once I film something and I don't like it, it's $150,000 to film something else and substitute for it.
Right.
You can't refilm, whereas you can rewrite endlessly.
Did you rip up a lot of stuff here?
Oh, yeah.
It's your first novel, and it's a different style of writing than writing a screenplay. Was it difficult? Is it something you had to kind of learn, or did it come very naturally?
No, I never do anything that's difficult. I'm too lazy.
Really?
If it had been difficult, I'd have abandoned it.
Did you enjoy the experience?
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I get up in the morning. I can do my stupid exercises, which I hate, to try and keep in shape, and then I can flop down on my bed where I write and just lean them and I'm here, and I'm not. I don't have to go drive 2.5 hours out to the Hamptons to shoot a scene on the beach, and I'm freezing, and I'm hungry, and then I don't like the scene when I see it in dailies.
So can we expect more? Could we expect more novels from
maybe
you?
That may be and that's also easier for me to write it and just put it out. I don't have to get a distributor. I don't have to do all those things that that make it cumbersome.
Could we have a series of Sidney Baum books?
A serial?
A series of books where he's the lead character.
I have an idea for another book, but I don't know. When you mention it, probably it's the same character with a different name.
How did you come up with him? Because he lives in the country where where he says he doesn't really like living, and you don't like being in the country. So there he is stuck in the country.
In an uncomfortable situation deliberately.
Yes.
I wanted you to see him unraveling.
Why does he have such an antipathy toward his brother? He really suspects his brother of sleeping with his wife.
Yeah, but he's a little crazy. I mean, I'm not sure his brother did sleep with his wife.
But you have a scene. I keep saying scenes because you have a sequence in the book where I've always fantasized about this. This is before I was married. I'd see a pretty girl on the street and just say hello or something. And in this case, it was in a not a bodega or a market or something. And Baum goes and rings all the bells, the buzzes, and I'm like, gee, what a missed opportunity! I should have just followed up, and I'm going like it's like I should have followed that girl,
It's a fantasy. In real life, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
They take you away.
But it's fun. It was funny. It was very funny.
Well, funny is one thing, but if you try it in real life,
no,
they don't like it.
Did you always? Were you funny as a kid?
Yeah, I was always funny.
Even as a little kid, you were making
kids. Yes, I was always funny, and it saved me because when I was in high school, all my friends were going to college to become doctors and architects and lawyers and things. I don't know what I wanted to be, but I found that I could write jokes, and from the minute I started, I was successful. I mean, I was immediately successful at it, so it saved my life. Otherwise, I would have, I wouldn't have had a good profession. I wasn't good in school.
Did telling jokes get you in trouble in school?
Jokes got me in trouble. Yes, I
Yes.
did. I used to joke in school.
And with your parents?
And my parents would have to come, my mother would have to come to school because the jokes would sometimes
teachers
be
never
salacious.
the class
Salacious.
really.
Oh.
That's funny. Yeah, teachers never were encouraging of making jokes. Back then in those days, they would never go, "That's funny. That's very good." Like they would always look down on you if you would tell a joke. Like
you were a wise guy.
Yeah, they didn't like that.
They didn't relish it. That was not one of their. But when I went to school, it was not like my kids going to school. When they go to school, when they went to school, it was nice, and the teachers were friendly and open.
Right.
And, with us, they were, martinets.
Yeah.
Blue-haired, like
yes.
the ones in Annie Hall.
I know you're never political, and I'm not going to get into a political discussion, but are you, with everything that's going on, you were talking about the world and, this country, are you worried at all about, what's going on and where this country could be in a number of years from now?
I am. I do think we're going through a very tricky period, and hopefully we'll come out of it. I think we will.
Do you think we'll survive? We'll survive?
It's, I think it's a neck and neck race. I don't think it's I'm not as sanguine as I was, but I think it's a neck and neck race. Whether, and I think probably we will, but, because it's hard to imagine that the whole country, but, there's a lot of people here with some very scary thoughts, and I'm not thrilled about that.
Do you watch the news a lot?
I watch the news. Yeah. I watch the news, and I'm going out tonight. But if I would have watched the debate between Mandani and Cuomo, I'm a Cuomo voter. Only because I think
we all are.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah,
yes,
I think he will do better. Would do better for New York.
I wonder if Mandani wins, which the polls are saying he will. Our beloved city. I wonder what's going to happen to that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. But.
I don't think. Maybe he'll be fine. He's but his basic. Thrust is humane, but I don't know if he can handle New York City. It's such a problematic city and such a tough city to handle, and we've had some mayors that could do it, but we've had some that can't, and I just hope that he is able to. But I have more faith that Cuomo would be a better choice for running the city. He'd run New York better. Things would run better.
People got very excited when you talked about Donald Trump a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I was only talking about him. I directed him, and I'm one of the few people he took direction from. Right. I was giving him orders, and he was very good.
And people said you were praising him, so they got very nervous. They were like, "Oh, he likes Donald Trump."
No, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. No. I voted for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat.
Right.
But as a performer, he was polite and efficient. He did all the right things, and he was good. He has a theatrical personality. I'm not going to lie about that because I differ with him on political matters. On theatrical matters, he was fine.
Maybe he could go back to that.
Yes, I would like to.
Would you direct him again?
Now, yeah. I can straighten the country out, I think.
That's fun. Woody, thank you.
Thank you.
I got to tell you.
Okay, thanks for coming by, and thanks for getting behind my book. Hopefully.
The book is What's with Baum. If you love Woody Allen films, I laughed out loud, and I rarely laugh out loud when I'm reading something, but many times I laughed out loud.
Because there are sequences in the book that come to a punchline, that's so unexpected. Yeah,
that's
your thing.
That's my thing.
And that's when you feel like you're really sort of like floating through the book. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it's not a tough read, but it is as long as as The Great Gatsby, and it's longer than most of the stuff that Joseph Conrad wrote.
Yes, longer than The Heart of Darkness. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought it was respectable, but thanks for coming by and.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.